Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident Podcast. It is a weekly chat about socially conscious topics impacting the culture. On this episode, we are joined by Sambaza, host and creator of the Sambaza Podcast.
The thing is that if they ignore it, that's the margin. If you ignore Black folks, that's the margins, especially in these battleground states in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, where I'm at. I'm in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona. If you do not pay attention to those states and you don't pay attention to all the demographics, you can lose either way. And if you just don't do a lot of your campaigning right, you can lose either way. So that's why everybody's talking about it. I mean, we even had conversations we've seen on Clubhouse and different places where they're talking about all Black men are slipping away in different ways that they didn't predict. But then the same token, it's such a small margin. And so I'm also like, do them, like, let them be, that's what it is. But if it's on some ignorant stuff, if it's on some, I want people to be informed when they vote. Why are you voting? If you can tell me exactly, and you're voting not the way I would like you to vote, but you can tell me exactly why, and it's not on some BS and misunderstandings and misinformation, go ahead. But if it's on some BS, let me look at you like, how expensive? How much did you pay for your smartphone? I'm gonna need you to actually use it.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident Podcast, a weekly chat about socially conscious topics impacting the culture. Have a great show right after this. Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident Podcast, a weekly chat about socially conscious topics impacting the culture. And we're happy to have our most favorite co-host, Sambaza, host and creator of the Sambaza Podcast. He is a 3-time nominee for Best African Diasporan Podcast by the APVA. And he is from the Republic of Kenya in East Africa. He has been a presenter at the Afros and Audio Podcast Festival discussing Pan-Africanism. And he will be a speaker and ambassador for the 2024 Afros and Audio Podcast Festival. Hey, Sambaza.
Hey, what's up, Jen? We're
How's it going?
Back to normal.
We're back.
Yeah, back to the studio.
Yeah, how were your travels and time with family?
Travels are fine, back, and I'm happy that everything is almost back to normal.
Good.
Yeah.
Good, you celebrated a birthday and such, so kudos. Okay.
I watched Manchester United versus Arsenal rivalry match for those of you who like soccer, or football as it's called in Europe.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, it was nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Okay, and I know we are still to be voting for you. Is that right?
Yes, we still got to vote for the APVA. If you go to my socials, you'll see there. Just go ahead and vote for Sambaza Podcast as being Diaspora Podcast of the Year. And that's what we need. Third time lucky. That's what I say. And also, see, today I'm wearing, instead of Sambaza Podcast, I'm wearing this Afros and Audio t-shirt that I got specially made for me. Well, not specially made. But I'm an ambassador, like you said. So I have a coupon code, AFAU 2024 SBZ. You'll get a 15% discount off of that. And we're ready for it. And I can't wait to be there this time. Looks like it's going to be amazing. Really, really amazing.
Awesome. Great. Glad to have you share that with us. And we'll have those notes and details in the show notes when we get the audio episode up. But we're really excited today for our show. Our title is Empowering Young Voters Insights for the 2024 election. Really excited to bring a great guest for you guys today. We have a seasoned political strategist who is going to uncover what young voters need to know to be fully prepared in the 2024 election. We're going to dive into some important matters concerning this election, key issues at stake, the practical advice that people need to know to make your vote count. And whether you're a first time voter or looking to stay informed, this episode will likely equip you with the knowledge and motivation to participate in the democratic process. So I'm really excited to have this conversation. Any thoughts today about our show before we introduce our guests?
Hey, let me tell you, when I saw politics, I was like, whoa, we're having politics today? And when I look at politics, well, there's not that mudslinging politics. That's not how I look at it. I look at it in terms of, being educated and having your vote and to learn the importance of voting. And it's not like the presidential, it's right down to your local area. That's where you want to start off. So as you said, the people who are out there, it's voting season in America right now. And yeah, we want to educate people, the young people especially, to know that it's part and parcel of their life. Because whatever you do, if you don't vote, you've given your vote away to somebody else. And hey, you snooze, you lose. So you can't complain when you say, "Oh, this is not done." Well, did you go take some time to go vote and put your word out there and say what you like or what you don't like?
For
That's
certain.
pretty much it. Yeah.
Definitely. So, with that, we will introduce our guests. So, welcome again to our viewers and guests to Woke by Accident podcast, where we explore the stories and insights of incredible individuals making a difference in their communities and beyond. Today, we have a remarkable guest with us. She is a seasoned political strategist and the executive director of the Milwaukee Food Council, a nonprofit organization dedicated to building a food system that is sustainable, healthy, and community driven. With a wealth of experience working on various political campaigns, including her own for Milwaukee County Supervisor back in 2015, she brings a unique perspective on the intersection of politics, community engagement, and food justice. Please welcome me in joining us Solana Patterson-Ramos.
You did your
Solana,
research.
how
Hi.
are you?
When I read your outline I was like, where did she get all this? I was like, that was better put together in my own bio than I've seen probably almost ever. So thank you for
For
that.
sure. Glad to have you with us. Thank you and welcome.
Jen does
Glad
a
to be
good
here.
job
Thank
with her
you.
background.
I'm gonna steal it, just so you know. I'm gonna use it in the future for
Please,
sure.
please
So.
do. Please
All
do.
right. So we'll start off. If you would kindly share with us a little bit about your background and expertise as a political strategist.
Uh, yeah, my name is Solana Patterson-Ramos. Thank you for having me on. Born and raised here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Lived experience of poverty. Got into, but always was a volunteer. My mom had us. We were at a soup kitchen and we volunteered after we ate. Like we always had this like thing of service, and went to college and focused on electrical engineering, and then ended up getting involved in student government. Getting out to vote. I actually was nonpartisan vote outreach person for a number of years. Also worked at a voting poll location since I was 18, and I was like the youngest person there all the time. And then changed my major from electrical engineering to community education and engagement, focusing on Milwaukee community issues, race relation issues, learning about different cultures in a general sense, and was a part of a lot of different organizations at the time: Black Student Union, Latino Student Union, just all these different types of organizations, and just kind of learned how to do organizing in that way. But then also became a youth organizer for ACLU of Wisconsin at one point, was on the board of NAACP Milwaukee, ran for office for county supervisor, as you stated, lost by like 200 something votes to Supreme Moron Bakunde. It is what it is. It's all public record. Cool dude, no problem, no whatever. But it really taught me a lot of stuff by being in there, and also how like the democratic process works, or what you can get out of the party and stuff like that, or party stuff. That's the first time I really interacted with the party. And just continued on career, was organizer in different ways for different other nonprofits that you may or may not know. So I'm just like kind of going through them, but they all kinds of vote work around, and especially around Black community, Black and Latino community. So I'm here as my own person, but I'm also the chair of the Latino caucus for the Democratic Party of Wisconsin, which is a non-paid job, but it's a members vote me in. So I'm not hired by the party. It's a member organization. So, and that's what a lot of people don't know. Per the state, depending on the state, you have a member organization. You either pay for membership, or there's some things where you just sign up. So it depends on the state. Each state actually has a different way they actually say if you're a card carrying Democrat or not. Like this, it changes per area. So a lot of people don't know that. But anyway, just been in the political process, partisan wise, since 2015, since I ran, and was membership secretary, was on our platforms committee. I was chair of the 4th Congressional District for Young Democrats. I was vice chair at one point. I was on the national level. I was on the platform committee for the Young Democrats of America as well. And then, but during that whole time, I've also worked on Black women campaigns, LGBT folks campaigns, trans women's campaigns, mostly underdog campaigns that needed help. And so me learning the ropes of how this stuff works also helped out my community, because you had good candidates that didn't know that much about the infrastructure, election infrastructure, all that kind of stuff. And so I can come in and help them from the ground up, get them all set up, and also do graphic designing. So I've been doing graphic designing for a number of years. And so I will do their website, logos, social media setup, everything, make sure they look good, so that when they go and try to find funders, they actually already look good, instead of them not getting funding. And so something that, we kind of talked about earlier is like, a lot of times people run, but they don't know nothing about infrastructure. And so, and they don't think about how much money does your family can get you. If they can't, you need to build up that infrastructure. And a lot of times you have to do it within the political structures already. You got to get people to know you and know your work and know how good you are, because they, without you talking too much, will give you money if they think you're good for a certain seat. Now, should we always be going towards establishment? No. But you need to learn how this stuff works, because you never know who could be your ally and who isn't. And that's the one thing about the political system, is you kind of got to get in it to kind of see it. We can demonize it as America, and we know how crazy it can be. We know how racist a lot of things can be. But understanding infrastructure makes sure that you at least know how it works. Even if you don't want to be part of it, at least you know how it works, and you're not susceptible to like misinformation.
For sure. And thank you for giving us so much of your background, Solana. Glad to have you with us. Want to get into a great conversation about why people should be motivated for this upcoming election, whether you're a first-time voter or just looking to understand the process a little bit better. We're going to shed some light on some things. So many issues going on with this election upcoming. What are some of the key issues you would say are at stake, particular to those affecting young voters? Education, employment, climate change, social justice. Give us some of your thoughts on this.
A lot. For young voters, it's economic across the board. I think everybody is economics first. I think we try to groupify, we'll groupify young folks and Black folks and Latino folks, and we'll say, well, they're for this and they're for that. Like, everyone's about economics. Right now people are struggling with buying food. People are struggling to pay for rent. People are not getting wages, are not being increased. Some aren't. We're seeing, McDonald's is saying $14 an hour now starting. I guess that's, where some things are happening, but some people are still at $7 an hour. And so economics, first off, is about number one. that also depends on probably who you're surveying. So sometimes people survey folks, and we got to remember people surveying folks that have time on it. If they're answering the survey, they probably got time on their hands. I'm just saying. So a lot of times when we talk about data, unless it is, you know, well, someone went in and really went into communities and really talked to folks and built and got the surveys, or even said, hey, here's $10, or I always think the data is always going to be off. I just want to put that out there. Polling, all that stuff, I think a lot of times our data is off, unless you have good practices on your data collecting. But the other thing is for a lot of young folks is the whole thing between Palestine and Israel is one of the bigger key issues. A lot of folks are I would say on both sides of that, but more so United States young folks have been a little bit more on the Palestinian side, and they're waiting. They're really waiting to see what's going to be happening with that. People are feeling more comfortable. Some folks are feeling more comfortable now that there's a vice president pick that has been sympathetic to that cause. But that was one of the bigger things that's been going on and what people are watching. And they're also not just watching that, they're actually watching Palestinian Americans that have been activists and seeing what they're going to do. I think a lot of people don't understand that. Like, people are thinking they're watching the politics, but they're actually watching people who identify with the cause completely, not just supporting completely, and seeing what they're going to do. And then also on people who support Israel, some of them are actually watching too, but for the most part, the both sides of the political spectrum have been both supporting Israel in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not completely the way some people want it to be, but they both have been supportive. So that one's a little bit different, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I was gonna say just abortion is obviously one thing, but overall, like women's health in a general sense, I think people are starting to realize like abortion is one piece, but women do not have good health outcomes in the United States, especially Black and brown women. So those are the key ones that I've been hearing about. But like I said, economics, the Gaza women, I think those are some of the top. But you do have things like climate change, being definitely up there. And just how we're moving forward as a country, like with LGBT and trans rights and stuff like that.
But I'm curious to find out exactly that the demographic, because when you figure out the demographic, then when you start asking the questions, they become pertinent to what exactly you can understand. Because like my son, when he turns 18, he be like, dude, what are we talking about? World peace. Him is all about the other things, and I think it's my influence that will make him go into the politics. Now it makes him think about most of the things. Like, I make some statements in the house, then whatever statements I make, he follows up on those. And I noticed that
So
same
there's
with
an
the
influence
girl,
there, for
right? So your
sure.
influence, and I've noticed where we live, when kids are 18 and they go to vote, the daddies are there with them. Like, we're going to vote. And with us, when you go into the polling booth, you have the Republicans, the Democrats. You're already told Republican is here, Democrat is here. Now you can imagine if your son or your daughter doesn't align to your policies, you already turn them Republican by the fact that you are standing next to him. We're going this way. You're not taking to go the other way. You see what I'm saying? So there's
Right.
that part where we talk about the influence, and then turns the questioning part where you're like, okay, you have the context of when you say, okay, they're worried about the Palestinian. Uh, my son may not come into contact with the Palestinian person, to have to talk to them unless they're in school or he works with them.
So,
You see what I'm saying?
well, okay, so that's a point. And the generational thing does matter, like you said. But I think there's additional influence. You hear like so many celebrities talking about, the war on Gaza and all that. So I think that's why some of the young people are looking up and looking this up and caring more, because it's so in your face. I was watching
But
a Tiny Desk and some singer brought it up. So And they're young
Which singer?
people,
Okay,
so
wait. Let me take. Which singer?
oh god. You probably haven't heard of her.
No, it's okay.
Kalani. Kalani?
Kalani. How old is Kalani?
I don't know, like 29 or 30 or something. I don't know.
Okay.
She's a
The
young
reason why I say
person.
this is
Mhm.
because, uh, yeah, it has an influence. You're right. It'll have an influence at some
Right.
point. Uh,
Social
but
media, you know.
but do you think that they would follow it up like it's a cool thing, or it's one of those
Yes. Are you
things,
kidding
or is it because I like, if my son came and told me something that's political or something that I don't believe, I'll challenge him to that question, right? But then
me?
again,
Hmm.
I'm the dad, I'm authority. If he's living in my house, well, you know, I rule, right? So I may have some type of
Wait a
influence on him
minute.
to, with regard to the fact that he probably, Jen, there are people like that. And maybe he's not one to be an independent thinker. Well, the family doesn't want independent thinkers, so they'll go ahead and say, hey, you know what, um nah. But there's some who are allowed to think that way, and their parents nurture them to think that way, and they're left to their own opinions. And if they say that, yes, this is what I believe in, fine, you can go ahead and vote in a particular manner. Either way, it's
Hmm.
still learning how to vote. I think the basis is
That's
you
true.
learn to know the difference, um, and what to look out for in terms of your candidates and stuff like that. Because, like,
Right.
I think in France, I'll just throw this in. The way the France Constitution is written, it has a
Okay.
weird way of establishing the difference between church. They don't mix church and state at all.
Hmm.
However, the Muslims feel aggrieved in the sense that they say a lot of their rights, or their religious rights, are being condemned because of the fact that they're in France, and they're especially being attacked uh, for their religion,
Okay.
whereas the state should leave them, uh, to do as they are supposed to. So I've I've made a few comments about, not regarding the Muslims. I've made comments about the French Constitution, and I've noticed my son has brought it up like a couple of times, and that's when I had to like step back and say, I need to watch what I say in front of him, because my opinions are sometimes what they feel are right, because I'm the dad. I'm still the cool guy. So that may affect what they think, and maybe I may be a good influence, I may be a bad influence, but those are my opinions. I would like him to
Right.
go research and find out for himself, and then come and say, okay, dad, I did hear you say this and this and that. However, when I did my research, I found that, and now they have technology. Remember back in the day, you had to go to the library. That means you have to get up, special day, go and find all this stuff on your own.
That's true. I mean, what you shared is not only about influence but also about culture. You are from Kenya, and so you have, your you know, I'm the dad and I rule the house. That's a kind of a culture statement that doesn't necessarily apply to everybody's household. Just
Jen, Jen,
I,
Jen, I can tell you, my, okay, they will. I'm talking about they. They will walk
who
into the
was
polling booth,
they?
and you know what I'm talking about. But they'll walk into the polling booth, and they'll make sure their kids are not thinking about moving to the other side. You walking with me to this side. It's no nothing. You
I
can have
don't know.
all
And
your
then
influences out there, or you heard us, like you may have heard that blah 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 did this and this and this and that. You don't believe it, but look, we're voting. You coming this way with me.
I don't know. I just feel like that's a particular culture that you're speaking of, and that doesn't
Yes.
really apply to everyone.
No, no, no. I'm
Like
not
a
saying
lot
everyone.
of
I'm just
young
kidding.
people, they are very headstrong and not necessarily agreeing with mom and dad. You know what I
Right.
mean?
I
I know
agree with that.
I didn't either. I did my own thing. I kind of marched to my own drum. And I think a lot of young people kind of follow suit, and they're more in tune with, okay, what's Taylor Swift talking about? What's Beyonce talking about? What's killing Kendrick Lamar? Every time they sprinkle in, I think we have some comments that even,
Yeah, I was about to say that.
yeah, to speak to that.
All right, so we got Ed. Ed, peace and admiration, family. Hey, Ed, thank you for showing up. We really appreciate you. And then we have Miss McD saying, "Yep, the younger crowd is very influenced by these celebrities. Well, many people, young and old, are simple-minded, just keeping it real." And that's
Right.
true to some point, because people, you hear something, a celebrity may make a comment, and because they have that celebrity status, people jump onto it and look at them like, okay, they have made something that's very worth me latching onto. And then when you say
Mm-hmm.
who said it, well, that celebrity said it. It must mean something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
True, 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 true. And hopefully Solana can maybe sign out and sign back in. We definitely want to bring her back in to the conversation. But even still, I mean, these are just things that I feel like are very timely that we you know, want our viewers to be thinking about.
Right.
Um
I
I,
know. I know that social justice, climate change, employment, and education. Now, employment, yes, because you
mhm.
want to make money, right? And then they may talk about, I can't buy this much money with the stuff that I have. But do they really understand that the importance or the concept of money?
Young people?
Young
Okay.
Yeah,
people, yeah. I mean, I think also
some.
you're talking about like a teenager and stuff too sometimes.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
teen
Let's
versus like
not.
an 18-year-old who can vote and who's out your house, then they gone and they're in college and they get to vote and do whatever they want. So like, or they think they can, or they may not. They may still be with their parent. But I think it's also just depends on the person. And are there like young folks that are like don't know anything? Yes, but there's a lot, especially with the technology now. They know a lot.
Mhm.
I think mine is going to be followed up until he's 30. At this rate, mama will follow him up until, well, yeah. Hey.
Like, who did you vote for?
I mean, and like I said, that's a
So,
culture thing. That's a culture
There,
thing.
there's a lot of different folks that do that, like follow up and everything like that. I don't think it's
Mhm.
just a cultural thing. I think there's like in each of the cultures we have those
Mhm. Mhm.
people, you know. It's a little bit everywhere. So I wouldn't say it's just one culture, but because you have, yeah, I used to work in a voting booth. I seen some people do that, and it goes on both sides, on white,
Mm.
black. It's just some people just be doing that, and other folks, I think once you get a little bit more, I don't know, savvy, then you're like, okay, I want you to be informed. I want you to know what you're going to do.
Solana, if I had my will, 18, he's gone.
I
This is
mean, I'm more of a village raise a child for like a minute, type of
yeah.
But
person.
this is America,
You know,
I gotta
well,
make sure he's good. I
yeah,
gotta make sure.
yeah. I'm
So
like a
when,
black man in America. You don't think about 18. Wait a minute now.
well, I mean,
Uh,
right, you know, I, definitely I have to change. That's not how I would like it to be. But he, it's not me. My rules are different. However, back to where we were, the age you had said there was some differences. There was a 25, and then you had a, uh, 29 and
It
24, 29, and then you also had up to 40 as a young voter.
in depending on the organization.
mhm.
So, but when
Mhm.
we're a lot of times when we're talking about young people, a lot of times we're talking about like 30s and under, and then depending on if they were talking about 24. 24 is basically, I would say, where you're going young, a young voter. When we're talking about that one group, or they've been
Mhm.
out of their house for a while, they're in college and stuff. That's usually when we're talking about young people. That's usually what we're talking about. I am past that, but I ain't gonna say where. But but we that's where the thing is, and to reach them is a little bit different, but also that's not majority of voters, but they are
Mhm.
like the winning, um like the winning margins a lot of times in a lot of areas.
Yes.
And so And so if we ignore it, especially in these battleground states, depending on which aisle, like both aisles, both sides of the aisle, I'm just going to be in the non-partisan. I so told you I have a partisan background, but I'd like to speak in a nonpartisan way because I think we should have I think we should have more than two parties really. I do think that we should have a choice of voting and everything, but currently one is just a little bit more unconstitutional to me, and the other one isn't, and they go closer to my values. So that's who I'm rocking with right now.
Right.
But the thing is that if they ignore it, that's the margin. If you ignore Black folks, that's the margins, especially in these battleground states in Pennsylvania, um, uh, Wisconsin, where I'm in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona. If you do not pay attention to those states and you don't pay attention to all the demographics, you can lose either way. And if you just don't do a lot of your campaigning right, you can lose either way. So that's why everybody's talking about it. I mean, we even had conversations we've seen on Clubhouse and different places where they're talking about all Black men are slipping away in different ways that they didn't predict. But then the same token, it's such a small margin. And so I'm also like, you know, do them, like, let them be, that's what it is. But if it's on some ignorant stuff, if it's on some, I want people to be informed when they vote. Why are you voting? If you can tell me exactly, and you're voting not the way I would like you to vote, but you can tell me exactly why, and it's not on some BS and misunderstandings and misinformation, go ahead. But if it's on some BS, I'm gonna look at you like, how expensive? How much did you pay for your smartphone? I'm gonna need you to actually use it.
Right.
Okay.
Definitely.
So, with that, I was wanting to have our listeners and viewers, kind of to be prepared for the election, and be prepared not even for the election, just to be prepared in civic education, right?
There we go.
One thing I'm going to throw it to you, just between you and I, Solana. I think having gone through both types of parties, like when in Kenya we have more than one party. There's a major party and two parties. You have coalitions that come up and make one big party. I may say that the American, to some extent, and nothing is pure, right? But I think I prefer the American model, having two. You kind of have
Some people say
a bit of an advantage on some things there. We can probably get into that some other time and discuss the differences.
Some other countries have
right,
the different groups, and then they'll say like, well, we like yours, and we're like we like you. Like, so I think we all got strengths and weaknesses.
But then that brings about other things when it comes to making up of a government, and that one we can discuss. However, now going back to our young people and not even young people, our new people who are coming into the system to vote, can you share some insights as to how we would go about researching candidates and issues? Now, on our side, I'm going to throw this out. My folks, one person researches. The next morning, they call each other on the phone. Sisters, by the way. They call each other on the phone. They say, who are we voting today? I got the list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And they all got to memorize that. So when they go and know exactly who they're going to vote. Fair? I don't know. Unfair? It could go either way. What do you think about that? And maybe share if you have a different opinion on how we could strategize in that.
Oh, I mean, that happens everywhere. A lot of places do it here, especially it seems like more so in the Black and brown communities. It's like we'll just have people will go on their block. They will go by someone, an elder or something on the block. They got a yard sign. They'll go by that yard sign. Like people will talk about yard signs a lot, and then and in some campaigns they're like, we don't need yard signs, and we're like, in the Black community you do. You better have some yard signs, because people want to see yard signs, and they want to see. And I think it's a survival technique in a way, right? Like, we want to see what if majority of Black folks are liking this candidate but not liking this candidate. Okay, so he must be a good thing. I don't got time. And also economically, like, people got 2 or 3 jobs. Like, they don't have time all the time to like look up every candidate, but some folks do. So people look towards the elders. We are also a egalitarian communities, right? As much as we could be oppressed by the systems that be or have been or whatever, or the result of, we are still more egalitarian, more more community based. And so we're going to listen to our elders. We're going to listen to folks that we would think, okay, you know a little more than me. Let me listen to you. That's why it gets weird on Clubhouse and most stuff when you have some people that are like, I ain't listening to nobody. I'm listening to this random ass podcast. No offense to the podcasters, but you're gonna listen to this and you're like, but there's so many other people that know so much more than that random guy.
Yeah.
Like, why are you listening to them? But and then that goes into your question of where they should be researching. Like you shouldn't be researching one place. You shouldn't, if you want to know the information, like Politico is known to be more factual, but some people believe it's a little bit left leaning. Okay, whatever. But go to, multiple different sources. Look at their actual page and their voting history. Like you can look up, especially right now, we're dealing with two camps that both have been in office in some way, shape, or form. Make a list of the things you care about, and you can go and research and see which ones go closest to your ideas. It's not, you vote either way, you vote, but then you go with whoever's close to your ideas. It's just math, right? If one is 5 out of 10 and the other one is 2 out of 10, then you go with the one that's 5 out of 10. This whole thing of like machoism or whatever the hell is going on, or the whole thing of a little bit of everything's going on right now, and it's in a way, and obviously I'm a little biased, it's in a way that it just isn't helpful. It ain't helpful for you, and ain't helpful for the community. So I do think like people need to really like figure out what they need, but at the same token, people people do vote with their feelings. People do vote. They have this one issue that they're voting for. People do go that way, and that's fine too. But as long as it's not misinformation,
Right.
or it's not harming nobody. That's another thing.
And that's what I was going to ask you next about the importance of fact checking and avoiding misinformation. Now, what I would tell people, you know what, like your candidate, right? If you're a Democrat or you're a Republican, either way, right, or independent, better know what the other camp is talking about or what they're planning on doing. So if you're going to watch TV and you're watching a place that's allied to you, you might want to go watch on the other side too sometimes, because you got to know your enemy and know where they're coming from and what they might be thinking of doing to you, so that you understand what they're saying. Now, some things may be said and you can fact check them and you're like, okay, why are they saying this? And that also brings about that importance of fact checking and avoiding misinformation. I think there are sites that you can go to and see where information can be fact checked and what have you. And sometimes news groups make sure, like when they're talking and they need to be fact checked, they're fact checked right there and then, so that it avoids you from having a calculated opinion before you might turn off your TV after maybe that person has said that and the fact check has not come through yet, and then you're like, okay, I believe what that person said. I believe in looking at both camps. I don't know. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do believe in knowing what is, because you can be susceptible to the misinformation and stuff. Like I said before, like I went and read Republicans platform, and I seen like we have our Wisconsin State Fair going on right now, and they have a booth down. It's at our big exhibit hall. I went there and I'm reading, their board of what they care about or whatever. I could probably argue that entire thing, but that's a whole nother story. But I'm looking also at the Democrats and what they're putting out and stuff like that, and I'm looking at it. I try to look at things. I have a bias, and I agree, and I admit to that, and I've said it. But I also try to look at things from an objective. If I was just a random person walking down the street, what does this look like to me? And stuff, and try to excuse it. I can't excuse all my bias, but I try to, because that's the only way we're going to also figure out how to do communications towards random folks. We got to be in rooms with folks that don't agree with us. We got to be in rooms with folks that do, and just kind of see what the difference are. What are they talking about? Because there's a lot of misinformation going on both sides for some things, and how things work. Like people are like, oh, we could just do this, or we could just do that, or the way that Kamala got on board was unconstitutional. No, it's not. It ain't nothing that's involved with the Constitution until it's general election time. Otherwise, it's the parties. People don't understand that we are a 2-party system, right? Like we are the platforms get their membership organizations that you can join. You can be part of the platforms committee. You can be part of whatever. You can submit a proposal to it. It gets edited. Now, does the people who are elected have to follow it completely? Actually, no, they don't. But they do use it as a guideline. And in some cities, when we're talking about a two-party system, we're talking about like you have to register to be whatever party you are 60 days before the date of election, right? There's no independence. And so I think depending on the state, we also just don't even understand how the civics works in elections. We don't understand how it what you need to know to be proper citizens and stuff like that, But yeah, you definitely need to like look at both things and talk to folks and everything like that. And we have to reduce our like dehumanizing of folks. I think that's like we will dehumanize someone who doesn't agree with us. And
Yes.
I am in this point of my political, like just being around folks and everything like that. It's like, that's crazy. Like, I'm going to look at you like funny, but I ain't going to think you don't need to be in a room or don't need to do certain things or something. Like, I'm not like that. And I think that is a lack of a better word. I think there's a white supremacy ideology that we gotten from other things, like some people look at poor folks, some people look at criminals, and they just automatically dehumanize them in certain ways. And I think we're also doing that in the political sphere.
Definitely. And what was it? Or was it JD guy Vance made the suggestion that because Kamala Harris didn't have natural born children, that she wouldn't be qualified to be a candidate. And it's just like, did he actually say that? Like,
I didn't even know about that one.
That was basically the whole childless cat lady comment came from.
Yeah. I'm going to make some t-shirts.
I'm bad.
I'm like, oh my God, I'm being represented. Yay. Like, it's like, man, you got to put like cat ladies for whoever you're for now. But yeah, I'm definitely that demographic. But it's also a weird, like, what is a woman type of thing. And I'm not even going into the other stuff about that. But because a lot of times when we talk about what is a woman, people say that you're not a woman unless you have kids.
Yes.
Like, people say you're not a woman unless you, this is not, and it's like, what is, sex, gender, all that stuff. But without even going into that deep, it's like, the people will look at you, subhuman, whatever, because you're not doing what you're supposed to do. And so I think that's where that comment comes from, because people believe like you're not.
And isn't
I
that
don't know,
generational?
not empathy
like,
or something?
Is that like a generational thing, or not generational thing? I'm trying to look for the word.
I think
Culture thing. Like, we're all like the way we say, as a man, you at some point you have to marry. At some point you have to have kids. You have to bring me grandchildren. And at some point, I'm going to expect my child to have kids and give me grandkids, and then the circle of life.
According to what, though? According to what?
It also depends on like, people say that, like, your parents might say that, right? But they're not gonna say you're like, well, depending, you might have it, but might say you're less of a man because you didn't, right? Like, like they might not say that. They might be like, okay, come on, like, like, but you want to be the man of the family. They might say something like that, like, which is a different ideology behind what you're saying. Like, being a man and being a man of the family is two different things. Like, being the man of the family, they expect you to carry on the family legacy and have kids and da da da. So I think when people say certain things, also though, like, again, Black and brown folks, depending on the communities, they might say certain things, but you're not thinking they're legitimately meaning that. And in other communities, they might. So we say the similar words, but there's always an ideology difference.
I think we need a whole new podcast for that. Just that itself.
So
as a strategist, is this
studying ideology by accident?
That's a good one.
As a strategist, I know that there's this whereby, and I talk about it myself, politics and policies. Just like when Eddie Murphy goes up on the stage and makes a joke, as long as he's on that stage, he's maybe entitled to say some type of jokes, right? And he'll claim he's an is a comedian on that stage making that joke. That's his safe space, right? And when it comes to politicians and when they're up on stage, they talk politics. Now, politics is where now they give this just thing and talk about stuff and say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You know, in maybe 10 months, we will change the world. We will have water to everybody. You know, all these promises that are made on the campaign trail and stuff is said on the campaign trail. Those are, to me, I say this, those are politics. And then there are policies whereby you get into the office. Now you start, you know, where the rubber meets the road. Now you have to do, maybe you told people, yeah, I'm going to do this and that, but it's not possible. You know, this is out of this world. Then you get there, now reality kicks in. Whatever I promise is not what is there. So that's the difference between politics and policies. Do you think people understand that when it comes to that part? Because politicians will go stand up and say stuff and they'll be like, oh yeah, that's right, he's going to do blah 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 blah. Then yet when it comes to the policies, you sit down and you're like, okay, now when that person got into office, this is what they did. No, but this is what the other person said that they were going to do. And it kind of confuses. Is the young voter or the upcoming generation getting to learn the difference, or we're still going by me, you know, shouting at the TV, you know, at whatever is being said, and then my son thinks that's the policy, not politics?
To answer your question, I think to a point, like people are starting to, because they're realize they got to research it, right? And so they're looking back and figuring some stuff out about what they've done in the past and stuff, especially when it came to the whole, you know, Gaza situation and stuff like that. People went back and looked at how much money people were getting and how, you know, the lobbying around it and lobbying around a lot of different things. And so that was that usually for young folks, it's always that one issue that will get you into everything else. And then once you like in this big, I would say, dude, the future of the young folks being in politics is gonna be drastically different than 5-10 years ago, right? Like it people are going to actually know how to look up those things now. So I do think that we have now have a pivotal point that the next 5-10 years is going to be very interesting when it comes to young folks being involved. But before, like I said before, they're not necessarily the biggest. They weren't the biggest population, or they're not the biggest population of people who vote, and especially people who vote in every election. They would vote in only the presidentials.
Yes.
But people are starting to understand the differences. But the other thing is that people got to understand, like, voting is just one tool in the toolbox, right? So if the politician says something that you like, you're supposed to keep on them. You're like, okay, cool. You know, you said this thing. I'm voting for you in because you said you're gonna do this, and now I gotta keep track of you. If a bill comes, because sometimes people say they want to do stuff. Well, two-part. Sometimes when they say they want to do stuff, they'll get in and then they realize, oh, wait a minute, I can't do that, or I don't have the power to do that, or I don't have the support to do that, so I can't do it. So like in Wisconsin, we have a Republican legislature, legislature, and we have a Democratic governor. Some things he just can't do on his own. He has to have the legislature do it, and they will veto his stuff if they will not do it. Like we don't have Medicaid expansion here, which means there's a good grip. Like we have Medicare, like we call it Badger Care. So for a single person, that's to $12,000. Once you over $12,000, the poverty limit, you're off of it. You can't get it, right? With the Badger Care expansion, it was up to $25,000 that you would get free health care. The legislature denied it. It had to be passed by the legislature. They don't want to pass it because they're like, forget anything that has to do with Obama. And so even if he wants to do everything he wants to do, he can't because of the legislature. So you also got to understand how the power dynamics work depending on the type of legislation. But then also, even if it's also that, you have folks that just like, oh, well, I said it, and they'll walk in and they don't really be thinking about it anymore. Just straight up. They have staff that sometimes just tell them what to do. That don't mean that they like really cared about some things. They probably like, we got to realize these are random ass motherfuckers. I don't know if I can random ass people that just get off the street and say, I think I want to run one day. I think running would be fun. And they do it sometimes just for fun. They don't necessarily they're not going to be, and they're not going to be like, who's going to be experts in every issue ever that affecting their community? They're not. And so we do have to realize that these people are human, but we also got to keep them accountable, be on their doorstep, or not as a doorstep, but be in their office, you know, talk about lobbying efforts, be on them, set up appointments, talk to them, come to town halls, make calls, make emails. That all goes in public record. And so they can come up and say, hey, so this many people said they want this bill, right? That goes in public record. And he also goes in public record that they're not listening to you, and you have evidence to vote them out.
True. And there's some movements where they have went to some people's doorsteps, actually and literally. So
that's why you see I corrected myself. I'm like, maybe let's say office.
Whether they were wanted there or not, they showed up there.
I'm pro actions. I'm pro activism and stuff like that. I'm a little on people's houses. I'm a little in between on that.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, in front of their house is a public space, but.
No, I think you should give it some dignity. Do you think that some of these politicians go into office because of one issue that has aggrieved them? Because
sometimes,
yeah, and that's the issue that they're going for, not yours. They'll, like you said, somebody will tell them, the advisors will tell them all this, and they'll fluff it up and tell you what you need to hear, and then use that as a way to get in, added points. But essentially they were going for that one issue that was bothering them, and once they complete it, then it's like, okay, I've done my part, I came to do my part, and it's gone. So there are other instances like that. Now, I like what you said. This kind of touched really to my heart, because at this moment in time, as we're speaking, it's 8/8 2024, or 8/8 in Kenya. Today marks, as it is today, marks the day when Kenya was going through the second liberation, where they were trying to change what we used to have, like a one-party state to a double-party state. Then it came many multiple parties. However, there's a group since June 25th this year. There has been a group of kids, the younger generation, like the ones we're talking about, that have come up, and exactly what you say, they do their research, they get into the spaces, they find out information. Actually, they make their own collectives and find their own information and come up, right? And I like when you say that, hey, you know what? The upcoming young people are going to be different because they have the tools to research what they want. And this is what is happening in Kenya right now. And this is another part of the world. And we have the American young folks in America who are kind of merging together to.
Oh, the whole world, all the young folks around the whole world, it's
right.
being very interesting right now.
Right. And they have access to a lot of information. And right now they're changing the landscape of the politics, and the political class is now on notice, because it's not going to be the same going forward. I think especially going with the elections from this year up and until whatever, because with the internet age, a lot of things become open, and whatever you say, see, the internet does not forget. Things you'll say and hit on Twitter, they'll come back and haunt you. You messed up somewhere, it'll come back and haunt you. People will see what you did or what you said, and they'll be like, okay, is this what you said? So that's a very interesting thing that you mentioned that, and I'm glad we had that conversation. I think we have some comments. Miss McPhee said, I'm glad you let your children decide for themselves what direction they want to go to. Yes, I do. I hope they get into the right direction and do things right. See, lots of parents, no matter the country, will force their beliefs. I feel like that's why there is still black and white racism. Yes, you're very right about that. They want their families' generational hatred torch to be carried forward, and which is true. Some people want it to stay that way. And like I said, people become uncomfortable. They're not there when they're put on notice, and they hear like, oh, okay, things are not going to be the same as they were before. And yeah.
It's very it's just a very interesting time, I think. I mean, I want to know kind of what you're thinking when you get ready to vote. I don't want to like choose for them, but at the same token, again, we ain't having no misunderstanding in my house. My cats can't vote any way they want to. They get absentee ballots. I'll be over their shoulder, making sure, that they're voting the right way for, their rights. hopefully they're not, voting for someone taking away their rights. Um, you know,
Definitely.
I feel like
And
that's gonna be
then,
the next election. That's one thing. Hey, on some serious stuff though, we don't really be talking about animal rights in this country. Other countries, they have parties
yeah.
that are and popular parties that are actually about animal rights. We don't touch
Yeah.
on that here.
We
And so
don't.
we unite all the cat women in politics, and then we start talking about animal rights.
Hey,
And some politicians are gonna be in trouble, you
Look,
know.
I'm here
So,
for it.
but yeah, our politics are way central in comparison to the rest of the country, rest of the world.
Hmm.
Like world
Hmm.
in developed countries or similar GDP, we're actually pretty conservative. Like even some of the leftist people, in the party, I should say, because we have a lot of different folks in the United States, but some of the most leftist people in the party, um, uh, party politics are still pretty central or just like kind of left in other countries. So uh, the way we think about it and talk about it, I think I definitely with the young folks, it's going to definitely start really changing. Um, Especially with so much on the line, people are tired, and also they're just
Hmm.
getting so much at the same time. I will also say though, people are getting radicalized, I think, easier
Hmm.
because of social media, because of stuff that's going on. So it's also about having a good peer system. Put your kids with like other folks that are knowing how to research and stuff themselves. Like you just have these kids out and they're not around like good influences. They can get radicalized because they're only online, or they find this one group of people that do accept them, but then uh uh they go a different direction because that's the group that supported them. It takes a village to raise a child, and I think when we have such an individualized culture in the United States, we really do got to make sure that children have a village. Otherwise, they can end up in places we wouldn't want them to be. So if you want to influence the vote, that would be a way of doing it, is making sure they're around good people that are I guess if you could say good people who research and have good conversations like we're having now.
For sure. And along those lines, I want to talk about getting involved. We know that service and giving back to the community is very important to you. You've done community organizing yourself. Share some insight on how a young voter or just any voter that may want to actually get involved. We're looking at a very historical potential moment in history, and maybe someone says, I want to be a part of this. And how would someone like that get involved and speak or share regarding that?
I think that you have to look at your city, and well, and it's actually covers something else you said. One thing is that politics is self-interest. It is personal. All politics is personal. So also figure out what you are passionate about is important, because you don't want to just go anywhere. But at the same token, don't be afraid of feeling uncomfortable and going into settings that you may not necessarily uh think that you should be at or whatever, so you can so you can learn, but like a lot of organizations that are really good, um League of Women Voters, they have an older
Mm,
population. They actually need younger folks to get involved. They also have a good they stay nonpartisan as heck. They do not do nothing with nobody. They don't like nobody doing it. They are pretty good about it, and you can go on their on a website that has a bunch of voter information, which probably goes into your second I would guess another question about, like, if you're trying to figure out information on voting. Vote 41 vote 411.org is League of Women Voters website on voting issues, so then you can go there and learn where to vote in your state. Another organization is ACLU of Wisconsin. They have American Civil Liberties Union. I used to work for them at a point. And they are about the Constitution. They are straight up defends the Constitution, to a point that sometimes people are like, well, you're defending like the quote unquote bad people. And it's like, yeah, but or yeah, that's your opinion. But their rights were taken away, or their freedom of speech was taken away, and stuff like that. That's a really good organization to be around, folks that may not always agree with you 100%, but they are folks that do understand, like, probably American politics. Your local NAACP chapter, they usually have a youth division, as well. Um, and ACLU usually has some type of youth division, but NAACP definitely does. under 25, and they have it's a national group, so you can go traveling, you can be in competitions, all kinds of stuff, but also just any organization, like anybody who's even interested in politics. Don't go straight to a political organization. Don't stay in whatever party or whatever it is. Like when you only are doing that, you're only at one side of the issues. Join local organizations, volunteer local organizations, be involved. If you're in college, don't pass your classes. Don't be me. Pass the classes, but be involved in multiple organizations there so that you can be around all different types of folks, and so you can get a well-rounded. Like I was in Desi Student Association, which is Pakistani and Indian organization. I was in African Student Association. I was in all kinds of stuff. Even if I wasn't like in the organization, I went to their events. And was around them and just learned a lot of stuff around them. Desi Student Association had one of the best parties I ever been to. Right, like if kind of thing. And so if you're in college, use that money. You spent that money, be in everything, do everything, like anything you get an opportunity of that doesn't have you failing your classes, be involved. And because you never know, because a lot of the school also gives you money for trips. I've been out of town a lot. I've been Canada, I've been to Vegas, I was vice chair of National Black Engineers at one point, and we went to a couple conventions. A lot of groups also have conventions and stuff that you can go to, and you can meet even more people. There used to be United States Student Association. You met all these people from around the country. So look up organizations, be involved, research what you can get out of it, to research how these things could be put on your resume.
That's a good point.
Yeah, these things can all be put on your resume. But you, to be a well-rounded person and want to be a leader in your community, these are the things you got to do. And you also got to look up, what is it to be a leader? Get a mentor that's a leader. And also realize that a mentor only goes to a point. Like, everyone's human. Don't look up to any mentor as a god, because you're going to get disappointed real quick. Get what you get, have a couple mentors, learn how to be a real leader in your community, and also a real leader listens.
I think I like that, because we are. Remember, I told you about that June 25th issue that came up, not the issue, but the whatever came up regarding, we designed some protest marches and what have you regarding the Kenya issue. And right now we have a group, and we're trying to figure out, because these are people who are in diaspora. So we're trying to figure out how we can convert some of the issues and teach the young voters that are coming up to be able to learn how to be more conversant with whatever is happening to them locally first, because they live here, our kids live here. And once they learn the ropes about voting, even within the local area and then the national area, it may give them a sense of, one, belonging, and two, also having to be more open with regard to what they want and how politics affects their life. Not look at politics as a negative way and then go like, oh, why is this thing happening? Well, you know what? You didn't vote. You weren't paying attention to what was being said. You didn't attend that council meeting for your local neighborhood or local city that you work at, that you live at. All these little things do matter in the end. So I'm glad you gave us that information, and I think I'm going to relay that to my team and kind of work this out. Those are great pointers.
For sure. And then we have another comment if you want to acknowledge.
Oh, DeMarco Davidson, thank you for coming in, and said excellent life and leadership advice. Yes, that's what we're looking for.
Shout out to DeMarco.
Thank
He is
you.
actually a prior guest on the show and good friend. So shout out to DeMarco Davidson.
All right. So my other question is regarding the upcoming presidential elections. Looking at how things are faring out, what do you see the political trends are? What do you see the voting trends are? I'm not asking for who's going to win or who's going to lose, but just with the way the climate is looking at, just give us an idea of how, in your opinion, how it looks.
How it looks. Well, I'll say, people, I'll try to do both sides, but the whole thing with JD Vance got crazy for a second, because he was announced, which is Trump's person. And then that was very interesting, because he, like, things were said in the past against Trump, and that just got really crazy. And then also people came out as showing their racism on their sleeve when they found out who his wife was. So that was a very interesting situation. I think that people are looking at, when it comes to that side, I think that people are looking at the Project 2025, which Donald Trump has denounced. They wasn't part of it or anything like that, but majority of his advisors and staff or of the previous administration was part of it. And if anybody knows about administrations, your administration is your team, and you don't really do everything your administration does. Everybody in part of it. So the fact that they were even part of it is concerning, for sure. And then, and I'm just gonna, this is all my opinions, but it's that a lot of stuff in that document is also I say unconstitutional and stuff. And so that is something that I'm pretty definitely worried about, is people not understanding it. They're like, oh well, he denounced it and that's it, and that's the end of the story. And it's like, yeah, the Republican platform is still for his own by itself is already kind of concerning, but the fact that people are really trying to do stuff, and a lot of people don't know, the Heritage Foundation is the one who did that. Heritage Foundation came up with a similar plan in the 80s, and people got Reagan to run, and Reagan did 60% of their plan back in the day. So a lot of the stuff that we be talking about Reagan, that was the same organization. So, it's not even about this stuff at this point. It's like, what do you want United States to look like? What do you care about? Like, there are Republicans for Kamala right now. There is the Lincoln Project. There is multiple things, and there's also a lot of people on that side that have misunderstandings of their own way. Like, when it comes to January 6th and all that kind of stuff, you have folks that are like, oh yeah, January 6th happened. Some say they didn't happen, it was all fraud. And some say Antifa did it. What is it? If you have everybody is saying all these different things, you can tell like how much misinformation is going 5 ways, and we don't have, and their campaign is not dismissing or approving. They're just throwing out different things and seeing what sticks, and then nothing's getting dismissed or thrown down. So that's what's concerning people with that side. I do think that there's just people who are sticking with Trump. And that's just what it is. I don't think we should be trying to peel it away. I think we should be going after non-voting people who haven't voted before, and educating them. If the Democrats want to peel off votes, I don't think we should be trying to like win people. If people want to vote, I mean, dude's been around for since 8 years. Like, if you haven't seen what's going on, and that's your opinion is to vote for him, I'm like, all to you, vote, your power to you, whatever. But on the leftist side of things, or non-Trump side more so, I think that Kamala jumping in, it definitely reinvigorated the campaigns. People are if we've seen, millions of dollars have been raised by Black women and Black men, and people started doing different groups, and it all started with Black women jumping on a call only hours after she announced, and raising millions of dollars because they were organized. Man, a lot of groups aren't even hitting the numbers that they're hitting. And I got a text message, and I got the text message 5 different ways, because people were texting every Black woman in their phone, everybody they were doing, and so that was organized in a couple hours. And so I think that there's definitely a revigoration in the party and in the campaign in general in the United States and election cycles. But then also, now that she picked her vice president candidate, the people who might have had an issue, I think, with her for certain things, they also like him. And so that's another level. Like, the more progressives are now in the mix. They were in the mix before, some of them were, but some of them, had their hangups with certain things that Kamala has done as Attorney General. I find it weird that people just skip over her as senator, but I digress. Because the bills that I don't digress. The bills that she pushed for during Senate included Black health maternity, included like a lot of good things, but no one's talking about that. They're just jumping to what happened as Attorney General, and I can get you having issues with it, but it's also been a while ago, but also you don't have to align completely. Again, make your points, and I think that's not I have a lot of other points I'm worried about before I'm talking about that. And I'm a person who's been around when we sued the police department in my city. So I'm saying that as someone who worked on police accountability. There's a time and place for it, but right now we have two candidates, and you got to pick the candidate, you know. And so having somebody now on the ticket that's a teacher that's been involved and in government, who's been now an executive, he's a governor, like he brings so much more that is weaknesses or just wasn't on the ticket with Kamala. And so I think that we have a pretty good team on there that can get everybody excited, including young folks, and get people, to the polls. But that's not even it. Getting people to volunteer is more important than getting them to the polls. Because if you're not invigorating the activists, the organizers, and the organizations, the organized or the people that are already organized, then you're gonna lose. And I think that now with the two parts, you have AKAs, you got the Black Greeks, you got all the stuff, you got the progressives, you got all these other groups all coming aboard. Now I think they just have it's their campaign to lose, really. If they stick to good strategy, make sure that it's a better campaign than Hillary's, then I think we're gonna it's a good shot.
You just picked the words out of my mouth. We had a point in time that history was going to be made with Hillary Clinton. What's different between the two? What's so different now as opposed to the one before, in your opinion?
You go.
Just pick a couple.
I was wondering, but
so well, I could say this. One of the major things is just some of the strategies. There's a lot of stuff that came out after her campaign about how they use data. Data was old data. I heard 2012. I just heard Clubhouse. It was actually 08 data. And what I mean by that is the Democratic Party uses something called VAN, Voter Activity Network. It has data in there of who voted, and after a while of everybody going on doors, you put that information into the database and you say, this person said they're going to vote for me. Well, if they say they're going to vote for you and you're on the Dem side, then we know that person's a progressive or a Democrat or whatever, and we know what house they're in and everything like that. Well, the older the data is, the more unreliable it is. That's just straight up data, right? But in campaign world is worse because people move. And in urban settings, Wisconsin had Milwaukee, Pennsylvania had Philadelphia, Michigan had Detroit, Arizona has Phoenix. Is it Arizona? Arizona and Nevada. One of them, they got Las Vegas or they got Phoenix. I can't remember which state was the other purple state. But if your data is old, you're going to doors, and the organizers on the ground was not able to edit the data, which is a big thing. So if someone's not home, or that house is torn down, or they're moved, and you edit the data, then that means the next cycle of volunteers that hit the door would skip that house, right? That wasn't happening. So you had multiple rounds of volunteers or staff hitting doors that they were not needing to hit. Right. So that was a waste of time. On top of that, she had 6 offices here in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Obama had like 11, to my knowledge, in our area. To me, that's about 40% decrease, in capacity. One more office would have been the 22,000 that she needed to win in Wisconsin. And people talk about, oh, she didn't come to Wisconsin. I ain't worried about that. I ain't worried about her coming to Wisconsin. You know what I mean? I'm worried about the actual strategies of hitting the doors, because the people that are in the room when it comes to rallies usually are politicos. They usually are volunteers. They usually, it does rile people up to go and do the doors, but the infrastructure is what's important. And so I've already seen a really increase in infrastructure when it came to the Biden campaign before it turned to Harris. Campaign, they started in a lot of battleground states beforehand. They started months ago. They already hired a full team, political directors, digital directors, and whatever, like a month or two ago. And so that they can have that infrastructure. So instead of just starting in September, which September, October is what they're going to start in other states, they've already started in these other cities and started building upon and getting those relationships down. And so that's the difference. Biden's campaign had the most people voting ever because of digital, because of social media, but because of their own outreach, they did more of the Obama campaign strategy than they did Hillary's campaign strategy. And then we're seeing that even more now. They're even doing digital way better than they did. You're like, we're already seeing that, like TikToks, Reels, like everything is a little bit better than it used to be.
Yeah.
And AOC was one of the ones that said, like, Democrats have to stop doing politics like it's 2008. Like, you got to get into digital spirit, and we're
Yes.
definitely seeing that.
Yeah, and even, shout out to Hillary, but I kind of cringe when you ask that question because it's not the same. It's just not. I mean, not only.
Yeah, that too. I didn't even get into that. I got into the strategy of the campaign, but there's also, like, without saying, she had AKA, like,
I was just about to say the D9 factor. Like you said, they literally put together a grassroots.
Highly melanated.
Yeah.
Whatever way you want it, I ain't getting into that. I'm mixed, so everybody can view me different ways. So I'm not even going to get into that. I'll just say there's race, the culture, and there's race. And race, there's race meaning, how you look at it, and there's race meaning the culture, and she's a little bit of both. But, but a lot of people don't understand the difference between race, ethnicity, and ethnic backgrounds. So that's why we're having these arguments over that shit. But
I mean, just the way she approached that candidacy was a whole different vibe aside from the
the
melanated. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just a different energy.
And she's also talking about, like, she's using Beyonce songs. She's using Beyonce music. She, like, there's also already a lot of videos on her doing stuff or being like a chill, what people say, auntie, whatever. Like, she already had this like vibe about her, and stuff. But also she's talking in a way that people just like, right? Like, Trump was talking about freedom in these particular ways. I think they're using her campaign to talk about what he's, they've seen what appealed to people, even if it was misinformation, whatever. She's talking about freedom, but she's talking about freedom forward, right? And she's talking about freedom that includes everyone. And, like, if you see the commercials or whatever, that's what people are getting. And just her bringing up child poverty in that first campaign video, to me, was like, as someone who does poverty work, has lived experience and stuff. And someone, if you study MLK, was starting to go into the poor people's movement, or started that up. That is what if I was I'm just glad that she's doing that. I'm glad that that's where it's going, and I'm glad that she got somebody who also believes in giving every child free lunches and stuff like that, because we have to tackle our poverty problem.
Yes.
And that's a big thing. I mean, I'm going but we're not. We're talking about increasing the middle class and stuff. Look, people are hungry. What are we doing about that?
And there's so many food deserts. I mean, I really appreciate the type of work that you do, because that is such a huge problem. I talked to you, Sambaza, about doing something about food insecurity. I think you said food insecurity. What does that mean? But
that's a different podcast.
Look.
Hey, man, yeah, it's a lot, and it's also very, very the people in it is very whitewashed, depending on the area and stuff. So it just like politics, people be like, oh, it's racism. Like, it's racism everywhere, first off, but you have people even that are trying to help that have savior complexes. So it becomes a very interesting, like, I was in poverty work, but I wasn't in food work, and so this is my first real bat into it, and it's been a very interesting journey to learn about all the different things. But it's a lot of organizations that are doing good work, and they're doing it in an anti-racist way and stuff. And I'm trying to do that with our organization, is to go about it in an anti-racist way, and stuff like that. But I do want to separate that, since I'm talking about politics. I don't want to put that so I'll come back to talk about more
for sure
on that. I am here as an individual and as myself. I am not representing any one organization or another. I gotta make sure to put that out there. I gotta put a little sign, like, right here. Like, I'm only representing myself at the current moment. Like,
definitely.
Question: you are currently campaigning or involved in campaigning. Do you have any words or people how they can contact your group or assist in your group, whichever group that you are Well, now this becomes a bit
My 20
tricky.
groups.
Yes.
When it, well,
Um,
when it comes to, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Um, well, if it's some like tips on campaigning or tips on politics and stuff like that, they can hit me up on LinkedIn. I for the most part, I probably can do, 15 minutes or something for free or whatever. If you try to keep coming back, man, I'm gonna be like, we gotta figure out some exchange of money at some point. If you want political advising, there's a whole nother story. But I think it's good for people to have someone they can talk to about politics. So I always, I if I talk to you, don't talk to anybody, I say, you can always hit me up and I can give you my Calendly. But I will hang up on you if it's not in good faith. I will, because I'm not about that. You could be Republican or and Democrat, whatever it is, and you could be about whatever. If you want to learn, I'm there to teach you. I'm an educator at heart. Um, and when it comes to the other group stuff I do Black owned business things. I'm part of MK. I'm vice chair of MK Black. We have a app with like 800 Black businesses in our area, and we host vendor events and stuff. And on the Bucks
Nice.
arenas, we worked with the Bucks, Milwaukee Bucks, to host events and stuff. So I've done all kinds of range of things, and then the political world is I'm Black and Puerto Rican for people who are confused. Um, my mom's Black, my dad's Puerto Rican, so that's all I'm saying. I mix, so y'all can do whatever with that. But I do chair the Latino caucus for the Democratic Party, but then I vice chair of MKA Black, or and MKE is the short is the airport acronym for Milwaukee. And so I do all these kinds of things, and then for my paid
Nice.
job that I get paid for, I'm the executive director of Milwaukee Food Council. And so all these
Nice.
organizations, you can Google, find their websites if you want to look into it. If you want to donate, good, because I'm in fundraising mode, with everything. So, um, just always you can hit me up, ask questions, ask what's going on. I try to be as blunt and as real as I can be to a point. But I think that we do need to have folks that are safe to talk to about these issues.
For sure.
Otherwise, we're never going to. But don't go to any random person, don't go to random Black folks, don't go to random people and try to ask them and have them be the educator for you. I just want to make sure to put that out there. I'm saying I'm a person for people to talk to, and potentially you pay me to talk to you longer, but I'm a person to talk to. But please don't go to any one body and just think that they should be representing whatever identity they're part of.
For
Okay.
sure. We appreciate that. And I appreciate you opening yourself up and spending time with us. During the work week, you got a lot on your plate. And we really
Yeah.
appreciate.
Yeah. One more thing.
Yeah.
DeMarco Davidson says, "Thank you for inviting me. And Solana is an
Oh,
amazing guest, and I'm a new
Oh,
fan. So, shout outs to you.
oh,
Thank you for gracing the show."
that was so nice. Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
Right on. Definitely. Okay. And so, yeah,
So
we
with
really
that, Jen,
appreciate you. Did we just get another comment? Okay, Pedro came through. What's up, Pedro? He actually had a
hey
recording
Pedro.
today. I tuned in for a little bit of his recording. So shout out to our good friend Pedro, the sound god.
Yeah, y'all on every social media. I'm like trying to find this. You're like comments. I'm like, which one? Y'all are
That's
on
how we do it.
everything.
You gotta spread your tentacles all over,
I,
and then
yeah,
spread the
I
crumbs
do
all over,
social
and then let
media
the
as
people come.
I, t- I tell people, like, just go and StreamYard definitely helps with that. But yeah, a lot of people just like, oh, let me just
Yeah.
do Facebook. Let me just do. I'm like, no, you do everything. You see what happens, and you figure out which one works best for you. And a lot of times people don't do that.
For
So yeah,
sure.
no, y'all are smart for that. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to find you
All right.
now. I'm trying to like
Peter says
find everything.
appreciate you for tuning in. Okay.
Yeah, he did have a recording today, so shout out to Pedro, and all of our content creator friends. We were talking Marvel with you earlier, so
Oh yeah, or be like, I should put out my resume. Like, y'all want to invite me some other ones? This is all the stuff I do. But yeah, I'm also a Marvel fan. We were talking earlier. I haven't seen Marvel Deadpool versus Wolverine yet. Planning on doing that on Thursday, and I got to do it with
hmm
my brother. who has cosplayed as Deadpool for a number of years. He's like one
Oh,
of the I'm biased obviously, but he's one of the best Deadpool cosplayers I've ever seen. He actually acts like him. And keep my brother is like a soft, like nice person and whatever. He's Deadpool, he an ass. And it's
oh
like,
wow.
okay. And it's like you see other people, they'll just wear the suit. No, this my brother embodies the character, he's
Okay.
really good. So
Oh
I have
wow,
to see it with him. Yeah, and so
that's
yeah,
awesome.
I'm an anime. I'm a geek. I used to work at a haunted house for 10 years, and I was an
Okay.
outside actor, so I scared the crap out of people. I was a juggalo. I spoke at the Juggalo March in DC once, so I've do graphic designers. Like I'm a weirdo in like 5 ways. So like some people will be like, "Oh, let's clothes. You know what? Let's do relaxed clothes, like business casual." Or they say, "Come as you are." I'm like, "You don't want to come as I am, because that's a whole nother
You have
level
a
to
cape.
that. So let's just stick to business casual, okay? Let's
Oh
just stick to
wow.
business casual, because I come up here got the and shit. If I come like how I may want to, it makes it a whole nother level. But no, but yeah, thank you for so much for having me on, and
For
this has
sure.
been fun. So thank
Definitely.
you.
Okay. Well, we
Oh, I
will
had a great time.
definitely have her links posted where you can tap in with Solana on Instagram and all the things. All right. And maybe use her services potentially. So that would be amazing. Sambaza, any last thoughts before we wrap it up?
I think Miss Solana should come back again on another show. I think
Okay.
we can get a topic for her and just kind of chop
I
it up.
mean, really, after the election, that would be a great time, like maybe first 100
How
days,
about that?
something like that,
Right.
You're
That's
gonna
a
have me like
thought.
I'm gonna be like depending on the thing, I'll be sad or happy. Like I'll be like,
Right.
Oh, by the way, check out the show. We're gonna have something coming up, maybe in about 2 to 3 weeks, if it works out. You might want to like it. It's something to do with the same thing that we talked about today. Might have a guest that we talk about politics and stuff,
oh,
All
cool.
and
right.
they have a story.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, hopefully you found today's conversations inspiring, enlightening. If you found it meaningful, please consider sharing with a friend on social media and all the things. Our collective awareness and advocacy play a crucial role in creating positive change. So stay tuned for more engaging content, and we look forward to continuing these important conversations. So until next time, guys. And Solana, you can stay around for our proper goodbye, but everyone else, thank you and take care. At this time, we're going to go ahead and conclude the episode. We greatly appreciate you listening. We invite you to follow us on social media. On Instagram, it is Woke by Accident Podcast. On Twitter, it is Woke by. On Facebook, it is Woke by Accident Podcast. We also have the new website up, www.wokebyaccident.net. Please check us out. And also follow us on all of your favorite streaming platforms. And please leave a review and share feedback. You can also reach out by Gmail, wokebyaccident@gmail.com. And every time you listen, we appreciate it so much. Thank you for listening and take care.